And talking about defeating imposter syndrome and breaking into the boys club, which will hopefully be very enlightening for us. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Nadine is a planning and shutdown manager from OG Fibre Solutions in Tokoroa. Oh yeah, no, I've got no idea. I got a new Plymouth. That's as great as my New Zealand speak is, or Maori speak. And one of 5 females in the management team, being the only female manager in maintenance, which must be daunting sometimes. And loves the job and loves that in position to make a positive change and put a heavy focus on mental well-being in the workplace. Being a young manager, striving to create safe and positive working environments that will allow staff to embody and hone their skills to flourish in the workplace. Outside of work, loves to play golf, fish, now Coromandel, yep. And if the weather is nice, go for walks, and now trying to fill the freezer with venison. So, jack of all trades. So thank you and welcome, and go ahead.
Cool, thank you. Before I start, if you guys have any questions, please just interrupt me, put your hand up and we'll get the mic over to you. This is very informal. I just want to give you a bit of inside knowledge about my experience and the industry so far. So I want you to take a second and think of your greatest achievements. Do you feel proud of what you've accomplished, or do you feel like a fraud? Does each promotion or new milestone bring you happiness, or is it accompanied by the dread that one day your cover will be blown? And everyone will find out you just got lucky. If you experience feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, then you may be surprised to learn that imposter syndrome is typically associated with high achievers. So if you feel like a fraud, the chances are that you're more capable than you think. Real frauds don't worry about things like this. There we go. Sometimes I feel like there are 2 people in my own head. The normal Nadine that's trying to live her life, but then there's this other me, the imposter Nadine. The kind who makes you want to curl up into the fetal position and cry. That little voice that is always doubting ourselves and all the things we could potentially be proud of. The one that tells us that we might eventually be exposed for the fraud we are. Imposter syndrome is a real bitch and often can sneak up on us just when we think we're doing a good job. Imposter syndrome can lead us to feel like we're complete failures. The fear of failing means sometimes we avoid doing things that could be really great opportunities. Everyone fails at some point. It's just a natural part of life. But it's how we accept it that really matters. Today, I want to dive deeper into imposter syndrome, what it is, how it can limit your possibilities, and explore some strategies that I've used to overcome it. Drawing specifically from my experience of working in a male-dominant workforce and breaking into the boys' club. So you might be wondering who I am. On paper, I am of Māori and Pakeha, or European descent. My first iwi being Ngāti Tūwharetoa of the Taupo region. My second being Ngāti Maru in the Hauraki region of Thames and Coromandel. It's where we go fishing and where my batch is located. I was born in the small town of Tokoroa, famous for a few rugby players, Richard Kahui, Joseph Manu, who's my cousin, he plays for the Sydney Roosters, and Kevin Mialamu. I am a 29-year-old millennial, born in the year 1993, and I am the planning and shutdown manager at OG Fibre Solutions. This is me with John Ryder. He's our general manager in New Zealand, and that was an award I received for best management, and I've only been there for 6 months. Now, to my friends and family, I am an overachiever who talks too much. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be the top of every class, captain of every single sport in school. I was in plays and dance groups, you name it. That's me skydiving in Auckland for like the 5th time, and just many of the sports teams that I've been involved with. I'm a perfectionist on the brink of being OCD. Want to know what gets me going? Those pantry and fridge restocks on TikTok where they put everything into clear containers. Yeah, that's my thing. That's just a little snippet of my desk. Every pen has a place. Do not move them. I am the eldest of 3 children, so that's at my mother's wedding. and I'm the only child to finish high school and university. So I have a master's in business, majoring in marketing, of all things. I'm an empath. I feel very connected in my working and personal relationships and my environment. I think it's the Scorpio in me. I'm an animal lover, so this is my dog, Livy, the German Short-haired Pointer, who I'm absolutely convinced is my child, and I birthed her myself. If you haven't heard already, pets are the new kids, and plants are the new pets. I'm a people pleaser. Are you one of those people that sends back their order when it's wrong? I'm not. I will eat it, and I will not say anything. I'm also an overthinker, so I overthink everything from what outfit to wear to the daily question of, babe, what's for dinner? He should know by now not to even ask me, because I'm going to say you pick. So now that you know who I am, let's talk about why I'm here today. Imposter syndrome, also known as imposterism, imposter phenomenon, and fraud syndrome, is the overwhelming feeling that you don't deserve your success. You become convinced that you're not as intelligent or creative or talented as you may think you are. You suspect that your achievements are down to luck, good timing, or just being in the right place at the right time. You might find that you often question your ability to ask yourself, what gives me the right? You may even feel that you don't belong at all, and your biggest fear is that one day you'll be exposed as a fraud. Imposter syndrome can be linked to other areas of self-doubt, such as fear of success, fear of failure, or self-sabotage. But it's not simply about poor self-confidence or excessive humility. It involves a constant fear of exposure, isolation, and rejection. Now, imposter syndrome often strikes at moments of success, starting a new job, or receiving an award, or taking on extra responsibility at work, such as teaching others. You may feel that you need to work harder because of your perceived inadequacies, to avoid being masked. This may even lead to further success and recognition, and feeling like an even bigger fraud. Often, however, your poor perception of your skills can result in downshifting, which is when you revise your goals and become less ambitious, thus preventing you from fulfilling your true potential. Now, according to Dr. Valerie, who wrote this book, I definitely recommend, called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, there are 5 imposter personality types. So the perfectionist, a person who focuses on what they could have done better rather than celebrating what they've accomplished. The expert, right there. A person who is always looking for more information, a habit that can prevent them from completing tasks or applying for jobs as they feel there could be more they need to know. The soloist, a person who prefers to work alone because they think asking for help will reveal their incompetence. The soloist tends to think that asking for help is a sign of failure. The natural genius, a person who naturally masters new tasks but struggles with feelings of shame if they find they can't do something well straight away. Or the superhuman or the superhero, a person who juggles many roles and expects to be able to do it all. Superheroes push themselves hard and struggle with feelings of shame if they can't keep all the balls in the air all the time. Does it sound a little familiar? Because I know for a fact I'm out here trying to be a superhero. So now that we know that what the main personality types are, let's break them down and look at the key symptoms of imposter syndrome. Feeling inadequacy and self-doubt. Imposter syndrome expresses itself as an extreme lack of confidence. When you experience success, you may find yourself thinking, I'm not worthy, or I don't deserve this. Most people suffer from a lack of self-confidence at some point in their lives, but with imposter syndrome, the feeling is constant and severe. Exhibiting perfectionist tendencies. I'm a little bit guilty for this one. It's when you set yourself unreasonably high goals and then feel shame or disappointment when you fail. Perfectionism means you may never be satisfied with your achievements and tend to focus on mistakes and failures only. Even the highest achievers have fallen victim to this way of thinking. Michelle Obama has explained in many interviews how she still suffers from imposter syndrome despite her many achievements, and how it can be particularly difficult for women of colour to overcome. Avoiding responsibility. While some people suffer from imposter syndrome, show perfectionist tendencies, others go the opposite way. You might fear failure so much that you actually avoid taking on new responsibilities going for that job or accepting the new promotion. You might find it difficult to speak up in meetings or answer questions without checking with someone else first because you're scared of getting things wrong. This may lead you to procrastinate or to avoid working on tasks that you know you need to get done because you worry about poor feedback you might receive. Fearing judgment and discovery. Imposter syndrome is often characterized by constant fear of discovery. Not only are you haunted by the fear that you're not good enough, but also that your co-workers and managers will find out you're a fake. This fear may even lead to illogical extremes. You might find that you push yourself to the limit in order to prevent exposure, while at the same time refusing to accept that your efforts are good enough. This can result in a vicious cycle of effort, dissatisfaction, and fear, which may further damage your self-esteem. Denying your own success. Now, you likely downplay your achievements a lot. Often you find yourself caught up in negative self-talk that makes you feel as if you don't deserve your success. You tend to pass off your successes as easy, even when you've spent a lot of time and effort on them. For example, you've been asked to give a presentation, like now. You might think, what gives me the right to speak? Why should people listen to me? And even when you receive positive feedback, you tend to find ways to dismiss it. For example, you might think, well, I was just lucky and I had a lot of help. You might also believe that if you were to start over, you wouldn't have the luck, talent, or skills to replicate your success. And if I'm going to be honest, just because you doubt your abilities doesn't mean that you're suffering from imposter syndrome every time. Sometimes you really will be out of your depth. In these instances, it's important to speak up and ask for help, because sometimes it does come down to a conversation to validate or put those thoughts at ease. Now, like other millennials, I'm an avid user of social media. Now, I'm scrolling through my carefully created profiles, consisted of filtered pictures with witty captions, and I feel like I'm tricking people into believing this airbrush persona of myself. Receiving comments like life goals or wish I was doing that, it intensifies the feeling that social media is like a fragile house of cards, and one misstep will cause those cards to fall. The more people view me as successful online, the more I feel like a sham in real life. What if people find out that the real me isn't as fortunate or richly blessed as I may seem? Millennials often wind up feeling as if their online selves do not live up to their online reputations. As a result, we feel crushing self-doubt and the nagging notion that we are nothing but big, fat phonies painting a nice, big picture for the world to see. Contrasting your own flawless internet image of baby smooth skin and, white teeth is a crushing reality of what you see in the mirror. Think hair in a bun, new pimple, and an old t-shirt that I've been lying in for 3 days. It's when your imposter syndrome amplifies. Now, if you recognize yourself in any of these personality types or situations I just described, don't panic. It's normal for people to struggle with feelings of inadequacy or feeling fake at different times in their lives. The important thing is to recognize these feelings and symptoms and address them rather than pushing them away. Funnily enough, as a child and throughout high school, I've always been quite ambitious. I could never shut up. My parents always told me to shush. I always wanted to be number one, whether that was academically or sporting. Now, I'm not saying I'm trying to be the next Lydia Ko or Elon Musk, but I always knew I was destined for bigger and better things. As I got older and I started shifting from studying and working part-time, I would scroll Seek or Trade Me looking for job adverts, and I'd find one and I'd be like, wow, this job sounds perfect for me. Oh wait, I'm probably not good enough, even though I have the fancy degree. There's someone out there better than me. That was always what I would tell myself. Back then, I probably wasn't aware this was one of the first times I was experiencing imposter syndrome. I started to think I wasn't qualified or didn't have the skills to do any job advertised. I almost felt like I was starting from scratch, like back at kindergarten in the big, scary world of the dreaded 40-hour week. Naturally, I like to think I'm a good leader. I love working with people. I am people-driven, and I love leading teams of people to success. Not just as a collective, but I want everyone to be able to achieve their own personal goals. Whether that's getting a promotion within our company or at another company, I want to help you get there. Whether that's changing career paths completely, I want to help you get there. Leadership is a way of thinking and a way of acting, and most importantly, a way of communicating. It means communicating to those people that you care that you have what it takes to solve their problem. Leaders inspire others around them and make them believe what they believe. So when I found out I was successful in obtaining my current role as the Planning and Shutdown Manager at OG Fibre Solutions, I was beyond excited. I was thrilled. Not only was this my first opportunity to lead a team of this size, but I was also working at a company that my family have worked at for years. Not only have my grandparents worked here, but my mother has worked there for 15 years. My dad works there, and so does my partner. He's an operator, so he's the enemy. So we have a lot of family history there, and now I'm a part of it. So I remember my first day like it was yesterday. Do you remember your first day at school or university? I always had the big new school bag, the new stationery, uniform all ironed out. This is how I felt on my first day of work. Now, this isn't my first full-time job. I'm 29. But it was the first time I felt like I wasn't going to work for a paycheck. I was nervous, I was ambitious, and most importantly, I was passionate. Now, those first day jitters flew straight out the window when I met the other maintenance managers. A team of 6 men, all over 40, some who have worked at Kinley for over 40 years. I felt like I was sitting at the wrong, I felt like I was sitting in the wrong building. The initial excitement that was fueled by adrenaline was now overcome by stress and anxiety. Not at anyone else's fault but my own. Everyone made me feel as welcome as they possibly could. But I took one look around the room and the feeling of I shouldn't be here stabbed me right in the back. Not only was I the only one under 30, but I was also the only female. They haven't had a female maintenance manager in 24 years where I work. I put it down to first day jitters and I let it sit in the back of my mind, but over the next few days, the feeling started to surpass. I started to convince myself, well, actually, it's not as bad as I thought it was. About a week later is when my feelings became validated, and it didn't just stay locked up inside, it became a reality. Now, every morning we have a manager meeting at 9:30. Just like any other day, I walked in with my head held high, feeling confident, comfortable in the shiny new steel cap boots I was wearing. Now, our reliability manager at the time was going back to South Africa for a month to visit family, and my boss thought it would be a great idea for me to step up and take over his role. It would be a great opportunity to learn more about our business processes and our engineers and the plant in general. I was excited to fill some big shoes after a couple weeks on the job. When my boss announced it, I immediately saw some of the other managers' faces drop. Now, I might not have a degree in psychology, but one of my strengths is reading people and reading the room, and I have never felt more awkward in my life. To make it even worse, one of the other managers sitting across from me, 6'2" Fijian, said, "She can't do that job," across the table, straight at my face. I was intimidated. Now, bless my boss, he is a great mentor, he knows his stuff, and he's amazing to work for. But a piece of me agreed with the 6-foot Fijian across the table. For a girl who specializes in business processes and planning, maybe being the reliability manager for a multi-million-dollar company wasn't the best idea after 2 weeks of being in the job. I felt like I was out of my depth. Now, you would never know from looking at my face that deep down I wanted to break down and cry. Thank God my skin is brown enough to hide how I really felt from embarrassment. But the second you let them intimidate you, they've already won. Intimidation is a mindset. If there is one thing in our mind that we can control, it's how we respond to pressure. So I kept a stern look on my face and I looked over to my boss who said she is capable and confident enough to do this job and don't worry about it. I nodded and agreed. We all left the room back to our areas of the plant and I sat in my office wondering if I had made the right choice. Not only did I feel incapable of doing my job based on prejudices put on me by other people, but I was starting to believe them. A couple weeks in and I've already been given responsibilities. Instead of looking at them as a challenge to show what I'm capable of, I was starting to look at it like I was being tested. And you know what, I think I probably was. I may have this fancy business degree with some interesting work experience, but I'm the only manager in maintenance that doesn't come from a trade or engineering background. Back then, I didn't know how to process these feelings of feeling like a fraud, like I was the wrong person for the job. All I knew is that I had 2 options. Get up, quit and leave, which I really wanted to do, or get up, take it head on, and prove to myself that I am good enough to do this job, It's not about proving something to everyone else. If they can see that you are confident and capable of holding your own, then that energy will be seen beyond yourself. Others aren't calling you a fraud, you are. So I got up, I told my boss, don't worry about it, boss. Our reliability department is all good, I've got it sussed. Now the next month flew by, I went to work every day with crippling anxiety, not just from trying to do the job I was hired for, but also because of this mammoth responsibility I had taken on. I was very thankful the engineers were very welcoming and showed me the ropes. But when our reliability manager returned, it was one of the happiest days of my life. Now, I've won a lot of money at the casino, I've done some really good things, I've traveled the world, but this was one of the happiest days of my life. Felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders and I could finally breathe again. Thankfully, I could hand him back his department without any major hiccups and go back to the land of planning and shutdowns. Even though I felt it was successful, I shouldn't have had to go through that whole ordeal in the first place. If I had the tools or the knowledge on how to deal with my own doubts from the beginning, then maybe I would have less grey hair, or maybe I would have had a decent night's sleep that month. From that point on, I made sure to never let anything like that happen again, and embarked on this journey of discovering myself and how I ended up feeling like that in the first place. Now, for women working in male-dominated fields where the boys' club is still somehow a thing, a workplace free of gender bias can seem like a pipe dream. As much as we would like to believe that gender equality has been established in the workplace, the unfortunate reality is that many industries are still male-dominated. This can lead to that boys' club mentality, making it challenging for women to navigate the workplace. Firstly, the fact that women were oppressed and prevented from working for such a long time is inherent in the way the system exists. While this does hold to be generally true, women are now more ambitious than ever. As the gender construct of women is to be more shy and timid, we as women often tend to doubt ourselves a lot more than a male counterpart in the same role. The women that we do see being promoted or in leadership positions have a more bullish attitude and masculine energy. One of the biggest challenges we also face in a male-dominated workplace is the issue of representation. When there are only a few women in leadership positions, it can be challenging to have your voice heard and your ideas taken seriously. Women may also feel pressure to conform to masculine norms, to fit in with the dominant culture, which can be exhausting and undermine their confidence and sense of self. Another challenge is the prevalence of unconscious bias, which can manifest in the form of stereotypes, assumptions, and judgments about women capabilities. Women may be perceived as less competent or ambitious than men, and as a result, their contributions may be overlooked or undervalued. In the past 40 years, we have seen a steady increase of women entering male-dominated fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. However, according to university studies, women in male-dominated careers face challenges such as lack of support, both emotional and financial, feeling incompetent, mistreatment, and lack of voice. While there are reasons to think the workforce is moving in the right direction, many women are not yet experiencing the benefits. The paradigm is shifting. Women in 2023 want more out of their careers and their lives and are willing to take steps to propel their career forward. So how can we take active steps to not only survive, but thrive in a male-dominated workforce? Now I want to show you a short Disney Pixar film called Pearl. Has anyone heard of it? Great. It provides a simple yet striking image of what imposter syndrome looks like for women. It's exactly how my first month at work went. We are thankfully at this next stage now where you see the integrated workplace, and I'm very accepted in my team now, but that first half, before she knitted herself into that suit, that was me for about a month, and it was really, really difficult. So just to sum it, it depicts the symptoms and feelings and effects that too many women experience in the workplace from imposter syndrome, and comparing that experience to a gender-balanced workplace where women are not frowned upon for being themselves in the workplace, One of the biggest tips I received is to back yourself and have more confidence. Women have a tendency to doubt and second-guess themselves and struggle with imposter syndrome in ways that males don't. Now, I'm not saying that males don't suffer, it's just more prevalent in females. This translates into all aspects, but ways to actually implement this is to put your hands up in a meeting, speak up if you have ideas, put your hand up to recognize the work you have done in a public forum and ask for pay rises when you feel you deserve them. Although this may seem daunting, in reality, I think people are surprised at how much things like this can really change the trajectory, sorry, that word sucks, of your career. I went from the shy new girl sitting at the table because it was my right to, it was a part of my job, to the girl who has respected and earned her spot. I look up to my male counterparts as mentors. I'm always asking questions and I'm not scared to ask for help. They are managers for a reason and bloody good ones at that. Everyone underestimates the function of the maintenance team. We are a necessary evil, and you have to have the right attitude to be able to put up with the shit that comes with it. I recognize that I don't know everything and there is always learning to be done, but I'm very lucky to now be a part of a team that not only values my opinion, but also sets me on the right path if they think I have steered off a little. It took a while to get here, but they do recognize now that I am the youngest, I am a female, and I am new. They also know I have my strengths and weaknesses and play to those strengths. They don't undermine me. Instead, they come to me and have a conversation with me and discuss options rather than going off and just doing it. So if you find yourself struggling with imposter syndrome or find yourself working within that boys club mentality, it can be challenging to know how to succeed and overcome it. So I want to share some tips from my own experiences for surviving and thriving in these situations. Now, the first step to feeling better about anything is to realize that famous people suffer from the same thing. So here's a few famous people with imposter syndrome. We have Maya Angelou. I've written 11 books, but each time I think, oh, they're going to find out. I run a game on everybody, and I'm going to be found out. Kate Winslet, sometimes I wake up in the morning before going off to a shoot, and I think, I can't do this, I'm a fraud. And my favorite actor, Tom Hanks, no matter what we've done, there comes a point where you think, how did I get here? When are they going to discover that I'm in fact a fraud and take everything away from me? Now, there are several ways you can change your way of thinking to make sure you're treating yourself with the respect and kindness you deserve. It's called self-compassion and self-love. Some of my favorite ways that help me defeat my inner critic are realizing that nobody knows what they're doing. Now, I'm going to sum it up because I'm running out of time, but nobody knows exactly what's going on. There are a ton of people who will tell you, that they know the answers. These people are lying. The world we live in is a result of a lot of brave people tinkering, failing, and succeeding once in a while. Nobody knows what's next. Some are willing to play ball in the face of uncertainty, and some aren't. You're not an imposter for trying something that might not work. Stop comparing yourself to that person. There's no good reason for you to be listening to me today. There are world-class TED Talks, blogs, and many studies done on imposter syndrome around the world. But still, I'm here speaking about this today because I think I have something to offer. You aren't here to live the life of another person. You're here to do whatever life you can. Find one person you can say you feel like a fraud to. Being able to say that out loud to another person can be a huge help, especially when they laugh at you for it. For me, it was counselling. It helped me grow massively as a person, plus they had to sit there and listen for as long as I could afford. Realize that you are never you. You're constantly changing and constantly becoming a new person. You're growing into something different. You're getting better. How? By trying to do something better than you can. Realize that when you hold back, you're robbing the world. If you walk around feeling that you should be someone else or that you don't deserve to be here, then all your crappy vibes rub off on other people. Your stunted expression means that you can't be there for the people that need you. Everyone has doubts. The best gift you can give the world is to move forward regardless of those doubts. Remember that being wrong doesn't make you a fake. The best basketball players miss most of the shots they take. The best rugby teams inevitably lose, except for the All Blacks. Losing is just a part of the game. Don't glorify failure, but don't let it make you feel like you're not a real contender either. Challenge. Don't accept those negative thoughts that wander into your head uninvited. Challenge them. It's often easier said than done, but try your best not to compare yourself to other people. And lastly, acceptance. You're not perfect, and that's okay. Give yourself a break and be kind. So I've been up here long enough. I'm getting the wave down, so I want to leave you with this. Even though my speech today was focused on women in the workplace, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, 20 years old, or 60 years old, 6 months into the job or 6 years. We've all suffered from imposter syndrome at some stage in our life. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable was an incredible opportunity for growth. Embrace that you are the only woman in the room by recognizing that you are bringing your expertise and diversity of thought to the table. Use that fear and anxiety surrounding your inabilities as fuel. Create the persona so powerful that no one can mess with it, and act that whatever challenge comes at you, that it doesn't faze you. Pretend until it becomes your reality. After all, we're too busy. We don't have time for imposter syndrome. My name is Nadine Moore, and you've been a great audience. Thank you.
Fantastic, Nadine. Has anyone got any questions or queries? Nadine? We do have some time, so...
I've got a very supportive boss who's real open and wants to have these conversations with us in the team, so it's actually grown us as a maintenance team. It's made us much stronger, and just to have that fresh pair of eyes. There was a bit of bias there because I'm not an engineer. I don't come from a trade background, so I understand where that, it's a little bit scary, like who are you to come into our team? But so far, I haven't messed up, so it's working. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh pair of eyes. Yeah, thank you for your comment.
And I think with one of those is, you mentioned the number of tools. What did you find were the best tools for you to deal with this, the thought or the process you had of being having imposter syndrome? For me, because I'm such an overthinker, I took up counselling for that reason. I felt I couldn't be open enough with my family or friends because they kind of just want to tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes you need just brutal honesty, and I wasn't getting that in my circle of friends. So counselling helped me, so I recommend it because, they have to sit down for as much as you can afford. And they are an expert in their field, so it is expert advice. So I highly recommend. No.
Thanks, Nadine. That was a really good presentation. So I've done a lot of my own reading in imposter syndrome. I'm a partner within an advisory organisation. So, you're, I guess, expected to know what you're talking about, and I've noticed it a lot in my team as well. In my experience, in my readings, my research, it often linked to ego, yes. Right? It's about, even the different types of imposter syndrome that you put up there, the perfectionist, the natural genius, the soloist. It centers around what they think of themselves. Yes. And there's an expectation that you should already know what you're doing, right? When you shift that to a learning, i.e. growth mindset mentality, rather than saying, oh, I should be good at this already. No, I want to learn to be better at this in the future. All of a sudden the ego is stripped. Yeah. And then, is that your experience as well? Can you talk through that? I mean, I guess your presentation didn't talk so much about ego, but that was a key learning for me. Definitely,
especially when I think in my maintenance and the managers team, they've got a combined, they've been there. If you put it all together, they've been there 200 years, So for me, I just shut up and listen. It's very hard for the other maintainers to just shut up and listen, especially taking it from somebody who's younger than them and less experienced. So ego has a massive impact on the decisions we make, the people we hire. So I guess it took a couple months for them to kind of just sit back and realize, maybe we should start listening to Nadine a little bit. Maybe stop thinking, we are the best at our job, and maybe, some of these, because I do the graduate engineer program as well, maybe these younger engineers can help us or have better ideas. That maybe our idea from 30 years ago isn't working, So it definitely has helped, and if you can change or shift that mentality of ego or I'm the best at my job and nobody can replace me, it benefits them mentally as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Any others? No? If not, Nadine, thank you so much again. Warm round of applause.